Okay, in the second part, I just wanted to do a quick overview of how each part of the vertex form equation affects the graph of the parabola. So right now we have the parent function up there, the y equals x squared. And you'll see in the top left right here, I've got the vertex form with a, b, h, and k in there. I wanted to show you how each part affected the graph. So right now I have h set to 0, k set to 0, so the vertex is 0, 0. And as we looked at before, as I change that vertex, let's go 3, negative 4. The vertex is at 3, negative 4. But hopefully you recognize that, hey, the parabola shifted. So I'm going to put this back to 0. And we're going to look at how each part shifts, or what we call transforms, the graph. So the a value, the default is 1. When you don't see a number out front, it's assumed that the number 1. So a is 1. If a is larger than 1, this is called a vertical stretch. You'll see it gets much narrower as I get bigger than 1. When I get to 1, back to my starting point, when I am between 0 and 1, so not negative, still positive, but less than 1, greater than 0, so my decimals and fractions in between, like a half, a third, you'll see that it gets wider. So as the a value is between 0 and 1, the graph gets wider. As it's greater than 1, the graph gets narrower. And you'll have a summary sheet at the end. Now the b value does the similar, except it's going to do it horizontally and kind of vice versa. So as I get between 0 and 1, I am stretching it horizontally until I can pull it out no further. As I get greater than 1, I am compressing it or pushing it horizontally. So think of me pushing in from the left and the right, and then think of me pulling away from the left and the right. So this b value right here is the horizontal stretch or shift. So let's reset that back to 1. H, the x-coordinate, the vertex, also transforms the graph left or right. Remember, our basic formula is x minus h, so the h value itself is what we're looking at. So when h is positive, I am going to move to the right. Now the equation will look, in this case, like x minus 3 squared. But remember, it's just the 3 that I'm concerned about. The sign does not stay with the value in this formula for the h. So when h is 3, 3 to the right. When h is negative 3, I'm moving to the left 3 units. If it's negative 2, I've moved 2 units left. K stays true. And instead of moving horizontally, I'm sure you can figure out by now, this will just go back to 0. The K value is my vertical shift. If it's positive, the graph moves up. If it's negative, the graph moves down. Up and down. And then the last thing to note about the A and B values. If the A value is negative, the graph itself is going to reflect over the y-axis. Sorry, over the x-axis. So positive opens up, negative a value opens down over the x-axis. The b value of negative, oh, it's got to be a 1. It's hard to tell, but it reflects over the y-axis, or the axis of symmetry. So I'm going to shift it and see if it's a little more easier to determine. Let's shift it to there. Let's go to an h value of 2. So vertex of 2, 0. When I make that negative 1, I have reflected it horizontally over the y-axis, so now my vertex is at negative 2, 0. So you can basically think of it of putting a mirror right on that axis, and I'm just reflecting it right over that axis. So let's go to the summary page. So again, y equals a times bx minus h squared plus k, all based upon that initial parent function. The a value gives us a vertical stretch if it's greater than 1, and a vertical shrink if it's between 0 and 1. The b value is a horizontal stretch between 0 and 1, and a horizontal shrink if it's greater than 1. A horizontal shift occurs when with h, and a vertical shift occurs with k. If a is negative, I got these backwards. It reflects over the x-axis. In other words, it opens down. When we say opens down, we mean like that way. And as b is negative, it reflects over the y-axis. So that's how each part affects the graph of the parabola. So vertex form, pretty simple. Biggest thing is remember is that HK are the coordinates for your vertex. So that will wrap us up. What I want you to attempt, let's see if I can zoom in on page 90, are these 3 problems in the problem set. So number 1, find the vertex of the graphs from the following quadratic equations. Number 2, write an equation using a coefficient other than 1. In other words, the a value cannot be 1 given the vertex. And in number 3, explain the difference between this equation, x squared plus 1, and this equation, negative 2x squared plus 1. So talk about the stretch, shrink, open up, open down. What are the differences? So those are the 3 problems, and that'll wrap up lesson 16. And then what I'm thinking going forward is I will do lesson 17 tomorrow. You'll have some of the practice work at home, and we'll get you ready with that practice performance task. We'll have you take the performance task, and then we will jump to the next module, 1 and 2. and we'll be doing 3 in class this week, lesson 4 in class this week. And I think that's where we'll end up with before Thanksgiving break. So I'll make tutorials for all of those lessons and get them out to you hopefully by the end of the weekend. So you'll have them for that week we're off. And then depending on how you're feeling and how your other classes are going, it'll give you an opportunity to just take your time and go through the videos, reply back with any comments or questions. And if everything goes swimmingly and perfectly as planned, when we come back from Thanksgiving, you'll be right where the rest of the class is, and we can have you Skype in. You can work with partners in the class, or if you want to continue with the video tutorials for a little bit, we can do that. You let me know what's best for you. Just hoping you are resting, following doctor's orders, and getting better at this point. As I said before, we'll do whatever we can to make sure that you are staying up to date and consistent with it. So just stay in contact. Your mom signed up for Thursday, so I'll be meeting her on Thursday and wishing you all the best. Hoping you feel better when we get you back to school and back in class as soon as possible. So let me know if this works, what you thought of the format, and any changes that you see that would help you out going forward. So 1 through 3, and you can do that on a Word doc, on paper, take a picture and upload it, or shoot it to me via email, and I will get lesson 17 done and recorded tomorrow. All right, have a great afternoon. I say, rest, feel better. Bye.